Hey there, Joshua Johnson here. We take you now live to an address from Queen Elizabeth II to the United Kingdom about coronavirus.
Thereby helping to protect the vulnerable and sparing many families the pain already felt by those who have lost loved ones. Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it. I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any, that the attributes of self-discipline, of quiet, good-humoured resolve, and of fellow feeling still characterize this country. The pride in who we are is not a part of our past. It defines our present and our future. The moments when the United Kingdom has come together to applaud its care and essential workers will be remembered as an expression of our national spirit, and its symbol will be the rainbows drawn by children. Across the Commonwealth and around the world, we have seen heartwarming stories of people coming together to help others, be it through delivering food parcels and medicines, checking on neighbours, or converting businesses to help the relief effort. And though self-isolating may at times be hard, many people of all faiths and of none are discovering that it presents an opportunity to slow down, pause and reflect in prayer or meditation. It reminds me of the very first broadcast I made in 1940, helped by my sister. We as children spoke from here at Windsor to children who had been evacuated from their homes and sent away for their own safety. Today, once again, many will feel a painful sense of separation from their loved ones. But now as then, we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. While we have faced challenges before, this one is different. This time we join with all nations across the globe in a common endeavour, using the great advances of science and our instinctive compassion to heal. We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again. But for now, I send my thanks and warmest good wishes to you all.
A very rare address from Queen Elizabeth II to the United Kingdom on the occasion of coronavirus and the fight against it. Rare indeed, because although Queen Elizabeth does speak to the UK on Christmas Day every single year, she's only actually spoken off that schedule 3 other times during her reign as Queen. Once was after the death of Princess Diana. There were very, very few occasions on which the Queen felt it was necessary for her to speak to the whole United Kingdom. This was just such an occasion, not only to acknowledge that people have lost loved ones and will lose them yet again, unfortunately, but also to thank first responders, to honor those in the UK who are thanking first responders, and to try to rally the nation around the common perception, the common belief that the best days are still ahead and that we will get through this. That was history in the making, and for a bit more context on that, let's go to NBC's Cal Perry, who joins us in London. Cal, I wonder what kind of reaction we expected this speech to have, particularly that Queen Elizabeth thought this was important enough to break precedent and speak for only the 4th unscheduled time in her reign.
No, look, you could feel the history in it, and I think part of it is that everybody is at home. Everybody is at home with their kids. We knew this was coming. This was actually taped a few days ago, but because of the restrictions that we're seeing in and around the Queen, and for some context here, her son, the future King of England, is suffering from COVID-19, though he has recovered. there was a great many people who were worried about Prince Charles. So we knew the speech was coming, but still, as you said, so few times in history we've heard directly from the Queen in a national address. Everybody would have been watching around the country, and I thought it was interesting and certainly poignant how she played to the history. I mean, in her 68 years of reign, there's probably no heavier moment than this one, or in World War II, and she referenced that, giving that speech with her sister when they were young children to the nation that was living through a time of war. And so often, listen, people here, the government officials, frontline health officials have been comparing this to a wartime. Certainly, the government has been as affected now as it has ever been. We've seen the health secretary stricken down by the virus. We've seen the prime minister stricken down by the virus. So this is a queen who is speaking to the Commonwealth nations, not only with family members affected, but her entire government affected. And she said, I thought one of the most poignant things that she said was, in sort of playing to how historic this moment was, she said that future generations will look back at Britons, and she said, quote, and those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any. This is, Joshua, a country that defines itself by how it survived and thrived through World War II. Keep calm and carry on, as they say here. And certainly this speech harkened back to those moments of British history.
Yeah, she did speak alongside her sister back in 1940. She became queen in 1952. She said in part, today, once again, many will feel a painful sense of separation from their loved ones, but now as then, we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. Cal, before I let you go, we should note that this story is still moving in the UK, including with the possibility of perhaps a ban on outdoor exercise. We know that Scotland's health minister is no longer giving Scotland's briefings because the health minister broke the parameters in terms of what the lockdown procedures are and staying inside and so forth. So where does the UK actually stand in its fight right now?
Scandalous. People going outside to parks today and breaking those social quarantine norms. The death toll rapidly approaching 5,000. We've heard mass criticisms for people who are taking advantage of the system that is telling people to stay home. The Army has been called up here already to help those who are most vulnerable, elderly citizens, people with underlying conditions. But we've seen hospitals get quickly overwhelmed. And of course, as you know, this country fears that it's following in the footsteps of Italy, of Spain, where those healthcare systems have cracked open, have cracked apart, where in Spain you have 14% of healthcare workers testing positive for the virus. And like this country prides itself on how it conducted itself during the most historic events of our generation and before, certainly in World War II, it prides itself on things like the National Health Service. But as we're seeing in so many countries around the world, here certainly on the ground, we're seeing that health service start to crack. So as you said, it's a moving story, but certainly hearing from the Queen directly, I think, leaves no doubt sort of how serious this situation is, both for the United Kingdom, but for all the Commonwealth nations, and certainly for people all around the world, Josh.
Serious enough to build the world's largest coronavirus hospital at London's Excel Centre, the Nightingale Hospital, with 4,000 beds to treat people with COVID-19. Thank you, Cal. That's NBC's Cal Perry in London.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.